my friends of Cosmic Agency, I'm Gosha. How are you doing? Today's video is about flat Earth. And yes, I know many of you know that this is ridiculous and why are we talking about flat Earth? But apparently there are a lot of people who are following this theory, who are following this flat Earth movement, and they are believing what the flat Earth theories state. I don't know because I don't follow it myself. I don't have much time to investigate, but even Robert told me, my work partner in the Spanish channel, that yes, that this flat Earth movement is gaining popularity and has many followers. And I also receive emails from some of you who are asking me to consider the flat Earth arguments, and some comments also state that we cannot be taken seriously if we are going to continue to embrace the round Earth model. So this video is actually a result of the conversation which I was not a part of. It was Robert with Athena in the very beginning, and then it's going to be Robert with Aneeka talking casually about this topic. It wasn't in any way meant to be designed for the video. It was just a conversation that they had casually discussing different arguments in a flat Earth movement, and we both decided this is a good enough material to share with you. So that's going to be that, Robert's conversation with Aneeka. And also at the end, I am actually sending Aneeka 5 questions. I sent her 5 questions or 6, I don't remember, from you that you recently left me in some place that will complement this topic. Now, if you want to deepen this topic, we already discussed this, and in the very beginning of our contact experience, and it was when Svarów Era was with us about 3 years ago, and she mentioned why the flat Earth theory is not correct and why it cannot be correct. She used to give us these big articles written by her, and one of them was Mechanics of Manifestation, and in one of them it is mentioned why all matter, large or small, is formed with the dynamic and mathematical geometry of the toroid. Everything is a toroid. So are we, and so are the planets. So in the same way, Earth is a toroid. So go to the website svaru.org, and in the search engine put in the word flat Earth, and that transcript will come up. Also, another addition to the videos is that before I start speaking, I'm going to say in what language it was originally presented. So if it was in English, I will say originally in English. And this way you will know if it's a translation or not, because some mistakes that are there are the results probably of my translation. So just keep that in mind. And the last thing I want to mention, some of you are asking me, or I saw maybe one person, but probably more, I don't remember now, why am I dedicating myself to the videos like Flat Earth or Nibiru if we are having this crisis in the world and there are more important topics to discuss? Well, first of all, I have never kept myself away from these most urgent subjects, and we have been giving you information since the very beginning. Not all of it appears on our YouTube channel because it's been censored and I had to delete it. All of that is on the website and on our alternative platform, odyssey.com. So everything about the papayas, and if there is anything important to add on this topic, we have always given that. And we will continue to do that if there is anything more at any point. Because that is the most important thing happening right now in the world, and the most important crisis, I think, in the history of the humankind, probably, or maybe not, I am not sure, but that's what they told us. Because it is the most important topic right now in the world, and the most urgent to address, that's for sure. However, I am not the type of a channel that is just constantly going to talk about papayas and about what's happening in the world, because that's not the type of channel that I run. This is Cosmic Agency, which means giving you any type of information that has to do with expanding your understanding of the reality, expanding of the cosmic vision that you have, of your worldview in all different realms, in all different topics, because I strongly believe, yes, the papayas and all that, that is the most urgent topic right now in the world. However, there are also other directions in which our minds still desire and wish to expand to and study and learn about. And this is also a nice break for you, with so much negativity and darkness is happening right now in the world. So looking away a little bit in those directions where you are learning about other aspects of reality, about cosmology, is a mental break also for you. So that's why I'm embracing all these topics. I want to share everything I have with you regarding everything. But of course, I will always share if there's anything urgent to share in the subject of papayas. So I'm going to leave you with the video. Thank you very much for watching. I have rambled a little bit, but well, and I'll see you in the next one. As always, enjoy the video.
Originally in Spanish. Athena's Varu.
What agenda is that of the flat Earth?
The control of the population on Earth. What they should know and what they should not know. What, when, and how it is controlled by the CIA and their friends and their interests worldwide. They have everything compartmentalized, so Flat Earth's agenda is one more level of its disinformation apparatus. In other words, flood the networks with garbage so that people do not know who to listen to or who to believe. It creates conflict, and it is what they want, because it drains people and does not let them focus on anything, because nothing is ever clear to them. With the Flat Earth agenda, they control conspiranoids who do not believe NASA's lies, because that's what they base themselves on. NASA lies, so the Earth is flat. Then they create conflict and quarrels between those who believe one thing and those who believe another. That conflict is what they seek, because it buries the truth. They can't stop the truth from somehow leaking out to people. What they can do is throw in countless contradictory stories that give alternative explanations to the narrative or to alternate narratives. So they hide any truth among a ton of garbage, always with the same design. Grab something that is true and then use it to justify a lie. I don't understand what flat earthers have in mind, simply because I've never heard them answer the big question, what's on the other side of the coin? On the other side of the earth. That's what they do. Create confusion. Use what each group of people wants to hear to give them more of that and keep them in control. And for that, they need population metadata, which explains one of their reasons for constantly spying on ordinary citizens and their tendencies on everything from clothing, music, to religious and political ideas. Being that the mechanism of religion and politics are its main instruments, and the new age is religion controlled by them. Flat Earth theory conflicts with the concept of ETs, because if the Earth is flat, there are no other planets. Therefore, there are no ETs. And whatever is extraterrestrial, they make it into demons and interdimensionals. But it is more of the agenda of confusion and of creating conflict to keep the population separate so that they do not unite. Since when united, they create problems.
Aneeka. flat earth ideas. I think they're already consuming too much fluoride in food and toothpastes.
They get together and among themselves they sustain that false reality.
Yes, and they feel accepted among themselves.
One of the things they say is that there are explosions recorded, I don't know what kind, as something atomic, and that the explosions reach a point as if it collapsed or collided with some dome, and that they have launched missiles at that dome. Obviously, I don't believe any of that. I've not seen those videos, but that's what they argue.
The only dome are the Van Allen bands. It is not a dome like metal or solid. Again, it is ignorance, because a shock wave, radio signals, even light collides with different atmospheric strata, and against the magnetospheric ionosphere, Van Allen bands, depending on the frequency and nature of what is sent as a wave, and it bounces off as if it was against something solid. This phenomenon was used a lot when ships used normal radio over long distances, atmospheric bounce. Again, it is just ignorance and phenomena explainable with basic physics, which flat earthers use to prove their theories. An explosion also happens when, at high altitude, due to the lack of atmospheric pressure, it will take a form of expansion like an extended mushroom. This also happens when an explosion or its expansion hits another denser atmospheric layer, known as thermal inversion, creating the illusion that it hit something. As for thermal inversions, that also explains why they sometimes take photos of two suns. It is just a reflection, like water on a hot asphalt road. It is not that there are two suns. It is just a common optical effect. It is the same effect with all explosions that take the shape of a mushroom. It is only accentuated at high altitude by low temperatures and the lack of atmospheric pressure.
Yes, in the same way, when they launch a mini camera into space, amateurs with a balloon, there comes a moment when the balloon explodes, and they say it's because it touches the dome. All the balloons explode more or less at that same height.
Yes, another argument with which they sustain themselves is that they see that the ships in the sea do not disappear at the correct distance on the horizon, which would be calculated according to Archimedes, according to the diameter of the Earth. This does not happen all over the world, only in certain parts, and it is because the Earth is something natural. It is not a perfect sphere made in a factory. It is a geode. It is imperfect and has areas that are more flattened than others. It is not much noticeable at the naked eye, or it is not noticeable from space. But it is measurable, and so are all planets to one degree or another.
They say that a stone formed the Earth. They base that on ancient cultures. Evidently, the cultures that the Cabal was interested in not eliminating. Surely the cultures they eliminated used to tell something else. Like, that we were interstellar citizens.
It is part of the agenda to make the human mentality go back to times of the Middle Ages, for them not to understand anything as real. That is closer to reality. That is the shape of the Earth, but exaggerated, not so deformed, but measurably irregular, as expected with something natural. Let's see. What logic is there in that drawing? None. What generates that? What sustains it? What dynamics are there? This is the truth, only that the deformation is exaggerated so it is understood better. If this whole flat earth thing seems absurd to you, imagine what it is to me, looking at everything from up here.
They mention the ancient cultures, the vision they had about the earth.
They knew very well then that it was round, since before Archimedes. Perfect, exaggerated, but yes. At first glance, it looks round. Also note that the bumps and recessed parts do not match the pictures. It is only an approximation. It is not the actual measurement.
Yes, it is an illustration, an interpretation so that it's understood. It is a geode?
Yes, a potato.
Are they all geodes?
In one way or another, or to one degree or another, yes. The only ones that are quite round are the gas-based ones, the ones with no obvious solid surface, like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Also the suns, although they have eruptions that deform the visible surface. So not even the suns. And the gaseous planets are not perfect spheres either. They bulge at the equator and flatten at the poles. They are toroids.
That is why the moon is artificial, because it is spherical metallic and the sun appears from our perception as a sphere of gas.
Yes, the moon is a perfect sphere because it is artificial. And even the moon has deformities because the construction is not perfect either.
They also talk about the lunar eclipse, which shows that the Earth is not flat. I think it refers to this image. It is not exactly this image, but there you can see the shadow of the Earth.
They also say that it is flat because the airlines do not pass over the South Pole. That they should, since it is the most direct flight, the shortest distance between 2 points, and they do not understand why those flight routes are not used. First, the airlines evade dangerous areas for planes in case they have to make an emergency landing. And secondly, Antarctica is a no-fly zone because it is a militarized area. That is why planes do not fly above the South Pole.
Although they say that there is a treaty that denies that it is a militarized zone, I think. But it is understood, yes, it is a dangerous area.
They also denied that Area 51 existed, but even without it existing, civil planes couldn't pass through there. I know that treaty with the South Pole, but it is far from being the reality. They do not pass through there because the area is militarized. The Earth, a non-uniform sphere, and the fact that it is not a uniform sphere, but a potato, also explains the magnetic and gravitational anomalies on its surface.
And it also explains ocean currents in some way? Or it has nothing to do with that?
Yes, everything is related, but it is not its only cause. I have always thought that the agenda of pushing that flat Earth theory is to discredit all UFO and ET contacts, because if the Earth is flat, then there are no other planets. And they throw in all things extraterrestrial, UFOs and all that into 2 categories. In what would be demonology with a strong religious load, and this translates to a return to the mentality of the Middle Ages. Or that they say that aliens are interdimensional, and the latter is partially true.
Right. It is a return to the mentality of the Middle Ages. That is, each time we move further away from the reality outside of Earth and we self-sustain ourselves with more false things. Denying the geodesic shape of the Earth implies many things, like space travel, interstellar citizenship, and all of that. And what does the Federation have to do with the flat Earth?
Although I feel like they have their tentacles into everything, I don't see an obvious direct connection to it. For me, the agenda behind Flat Earth is more than anything to confuse the population to the point that they cannot know what is real and what is not. This also makes them more docile because they have fewer ideologies to defend. Another very obvious thing, but it must be mentioned, is that the Flat Earthers hide behind the fact that NASA is lying. And this is true. NASA not only lies, its real purpose is to lie to the people, to cover and serve as a cover for other real space agendas, that is, the SSP. But just because NASA lies all the time does not mean that the Earth is flat, as it has been proven to be round for thousands of years before NASA was created. I feel that people fall into believing in flat Earth because they have only woken up to realize that NASA is lying, and they do not have the necessary background or understanding to understand what is behind it or what other agendas there are, because they do not understand or believe in other things called conspiracy. They're simply not yet at the level necessary to understand all the lies and agendas.
Excuse me, Aneeka, but I didn't understand what you mean that if the Earth is flat, there cannot be other planets or ETs. As I'm imagining a flat Earth is that it is floating in space, flat, and there are more planets around, but also flat. In this sense, yes, ET life can continue outside, unless they deny space outside of Earth as well.
That is yet another theory, without physical support, of how it can be that the planets are flat. The most widely accepted theory of the flat Earth states that the other planets do not exist, but are projections like the moon and the sun in a vault or dome. But yes, we observe that there are infinity of variants of that flat Earth theory.
They say they don't exist? I didn't know that. And what is outside according to them?
Yes, it is the strongest trend within the flat Earth model, the most accepted one. They say that the stars do not exist, that they're only projections on the dome, and that the edges of the flat Earth are the ice walls of Antarctica, as seen in this image.
Flat Earthers also excuse themselves by saying why the rainbow is shaped like a curve.
That's a lens effect with atmospheric water.
Refraction?
Yes.
I can't find how the flat Earth moves.
This is how it moves. That is consistent with the navigation data of the ships. What is not seen in that GIF is that the other stars around the sun also move with it at the same speed and in perfect synchronicity, which produces the illusion that the sun and the surrounding stars that form constellations are not moving. This speed of progression through space is not so appreciable, and that is because the entire arm of the galaxy that moves as mass only with small differences between the stellar objects that compose it because of dynamics of movement particular to each zone.
originally in English. Additional questions from the public. Please address all the things we see in the distance which should fall beyond the horizon but don't.
As far as I know, all things fall below the horizon, none don't. Sometimes they may take a longer distance, depending on the location, due to the fact that the Earth is not perfectly round. It is an uneven rock. Over-exaggerated shapes, of course, for clarity. It still looks quite round from space, but it's not.
Someone asks me, ask if Earth's atmosphere is supposed to spin along with it, and where would the demarcation line be between Earth and space, because the whole of the galaxy can't possibly spin along too.
The Earth's atmosphere has several layers depending on temperature and humidity levels, among other factors. These move along in different directions, generating wind. They move in different directions due to several factors, like for example, temperature changes on the surface and on each level, that generate a pressure differential observed as changes in atmospheric pressure as part of a weather system that includes the formation of clouds. So although there are several layers of atmosphere that are physically differentiated and moving in different directions, as a mass, it moves along with Earth's rotation. There is no clear physical demarcation between atmosphere and space, as in reality, the top layers of it get thinner and thinner as you ascend. So even in places that are officially called space, like the level the ISS orbits in, and many other satellites, and even us here, we can still measure some atmosphere. The only demarcation between atmosphere and space is by artificial agreement.
Someone says, also, the lack of star parallax is a major red herring.
There is star parallax, but it is slight and only measured in arcseconds, shifting in their position in the night sky along the year and with Earth's rotation, and can be used to triangulate its position, as explained why in detail in next questions.
Another question from the public. What about the idea that water always finds its level? If the Earth isn't flat, water sure is. Water is supposed to be sticking to a ball that's spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, that is.
Water does find its level, and it has on Earth. But finding its level depends on gravity, on water temperature, and on salinity levels, as those change the density of water and produce different layers in it as well. Water is atmosphere as well. As with air, the oceans, it also has several layers and ocean currents moving in different directions with different salinity levels and different temperatures. All this also affecting weather as part of a complex system. There is also a factor of gravity pull from the moon that, along with the other factors I just mentioned, will produce tides, giving the illusion that water has not reached its level. This is a simplistic excuse for flat Earth, as it's quite obvious that water in movement is not the same as still water. And in the case of Earth's oceans, water is in constant movement. Earth, as a spinning ball, does produce inertia that would expel objects and water, And it did, and still does. But it also has a force that is canceling inertia, and that force is gravity. The result of combination of inertia and gravity will produce a zone where there will be an equilibrium between both forces, creating a still. That still area is where you all live, the surface, water hydrosphere, and air atmosphere around you. All objects or things that are out of balance because they have too much mass or any other factor will end up being expelled from Earth, as many artificial satellites, orbital debris, and even asteroids and meteors simply will fly off if that is their movement dynamic, or fall to Earth by gravity if their movement dynamic is set to be influenced more by gravity factor.
Someone asks this. Then the Earth is spinning at 66.6 thousand miles an hour, yes, that is the official speed, around the Sun. Then the Sun and Earth are spinning around the galaxy, and then the Sun and galaxy is shooting out from the Big Bang at another crazy speed. That's at least 4 directions of movement at various speeds, none of which we can feel or see any effects of. Yet, every night for thousands of years, the stars in constellations rise and set in the exact same clockwork fashion in the sky, never missing an inch.
There was no Big Bang. That's astrotheology inserted as science and sustained by a mathematical model to represent it, but that does not reflect the outside world. So the galaxies, even though do move, are not expanding or moving away from one another. The way Earth science measures this expansion is using light. When light from a distant object is in the red spectrum or towards the red, it is said that the object is moving away. And when it's towards the blue, it is getting closer. So, as astronomers see more red in the light coming from distant galaxies, they deduce that they must be moving away. What Earth science does not see seriously, only as a fringe theory, is that light is not a constant as for measuring things and objects that way, because space is not empty. It is a fluid at very high vibration, like water. You can also call it ether. Nikola Tesla accepted this, but official science does not accept the existence of ether. As light traverses through hundreds of light years, if not thousands as well, depending on the object being observed,
it loses not only intensity, but its higher frequencies as well,
due to refraction or friction as it passes through the ether. This gives way to light getting tired. See tired light theory on Earth, giving way to the illusion of an object moving away. But it is only an illusion. Sometimes it is possible to measure the movement of a far away object, observing what the light it emits is doing. But due to this other tired light factor to be considered, this method is very limited and prone to errors. When you're moving or spinning in perfect synchronicity and equilibrium with what surrounds you, you do not feel your speed because you do not have any reference points. Best example of this is while on an airplane. Your drink is not spilling, and you can walk along inside without feeling any speed. You can observe this in a car as well. Same thing here. You do not feel the speed because you're moving with all what surrounds you. That is why you do not feel any effects. Same with Earth, and same with the illusion of lack of parallax as asked in the previous question. Parallax is very slight, measured movement of stars in short. Because all the stars, constellations, and basically all this arm of the galaxy is moving along with the sun, the solar system, and everything inside it. That is why the distance to other stars and their position in the night sky through thousands of years remain almost the same. There is difference in movement. This is again as with the example of a person inside an airplane. Just because large constellations, stars, solar systems, and everything in them are moving along at the same rate of speed, coordinated, and in perfect harmony with one another, so the effects of speed are not felt as those are relative.
Great, thank you. Last question from a viewer. How is it possible to see Mercury and Venus in a night sky from Earth?
This is simply because Venus and Mercury are not directly towards the sun, but only in that direction. So what you see of them is sunlight being reflected from their surface. So even though they're in the direction of your sun, you can see them well because they're to one side of it or another, depending on their orbital position in the solar system.